Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HB Podcast, episode number 320. I'm Ben, and with me here today are the beautiful boys. I can't really concentrate. Dave, whenever the screen came back up and I saw your image again, you were like pointing at something. What was happening there? Oh, you were tapping your microphone.
Double checking that. So my headphone is plugged directly into my microphone. So I was just making sure. I have weird issues because I insist on using the cheapest headphones I can find off Amazon that will last me 15 years.
Right.
And these ones are coming up to their time because like part of it is gone and it makes weird noises and stuff. But I refuse to spend another $10 on a set of earbuds before I have to. So, yeah.
I'm glad to know that there was a rationale behind whatever your little. All I saw was like you wagging your finger.
I was doing this. Like, hey.
I was like, what is he pointing at? But you were. I get it now.
Yeah.
Little tap tap taparoo. Brandon, hello.
What's up, Ben?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm wearing a V-neck T-shirt
I was just
today.
gonna ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I found this in my closet. It's too small, so it's gonna be transferred to an undershirt. I just found it. It's really old, apparently. But it's far too tight to be an overshirt, and I didn't know what to wear, so I wanted to pick something that I don't really care if I don't wear it soon. It'll just go in the laundry, and then when it gets washed, it could go in the trash, and I wouldn't even remember that I had it. So I'm doing good though. A lot of chest exposed today. What little hair I have here is on full display. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
There's a lot of ladies in our chat. I'm sure.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And for the audio listeners, you're just going to have to pop on over to youtube.com/BenIsHandsome and look at the VOD to try and experience some of this. I also do after hours shows. It's not after dark, it's after hours for tokens. That's why Locke always pops in here and asks about tokens. I'm the one he's asking about.
He's just getting confused.
Yeah. He's used to seeing me, and I think he might lose his mind and act a fool on here if he sees me with this much chest out today. So I'm doing good though. Mostly.
Dave, are you a V-neck enjoyer?
No, I can't wear V-necks because I have way too much chest hair. I think there has to be a balance with skin and chest hair to pull off a V-neck, and I'm not one of those people. So
yeah.
See, I adamantly disagree with you. I feel like this would only be made better by one, any sort of discernible muscle definition, and two, if there was just a tuft of man right here.
You could just grow out your beard a little longer, then cut it off and tape it, like glue it to your chest.
That is true. I might be looking a little different next week, boys. I don't want to give any spoilers away. And I'm not joking about that bit. I might look a little bit different this week. I'm going to the barber, and I think I'm changing things up a little bit, boys.
Let's go.
Just a little
with
bit.
The classic Van Dyke.
I was thinking of going with the yes. I'm going to go with that, Ben. But Radic, I will never comment on the Playboi Carti album in chat. I don't like Playboi Carti. I know a couple of his songs. I know there's a Kendrick feature. I hope you like it though. But in other news, I'm doing all right.
You do realize, by the way, that Radic only gains his power like Tinkerbell. Like Tinkerbell only survives because people clap for her or whatever. Radic only survives because you answer his bait questions.
That's okay, dude.
He's more like Navi in Ocarina of Time. He's just like, hey, listen. Yeah. And I swear, if you press the button to listen or interact with Navi, then she says it more. Mm-hmm. So if you don't press that button, which is responding to Radic, then he'll stop saying, hey, listen.
Yeah.
I promise that's all.
I have an incredibly large amount of persistent people-pleasing, so I would like him to go toe-to-toe because one of us will break first. Either the troll will break first, or he'll drive himself insane because I will never stop answering his troll questions. See, that's how you really get them, is you just always respond. And then at some point, if we went back and forth long enough, it's like, I got to go to work sort of thing for him. So also Hulk Hogan. Super chat, $2.
I was going to get to that, brother.
Legendary. Dude, I'm on a roll in chat today, boys. Edward Walton in the chat. Fucking Ben is handsome in the chat.
We literally don't do this.
Mark in the chat. StreamYard in the chat.
Is Brandon getting ready to get back to streaming? Is that what we're saying?
I doubt it. I think he's going to fail his resolution.
I think I'm going to fail my res. Dude, this is what I do, is I start the year off weak, meek, destroyed, and then I rise from the ashes like a beautiful ginger phoenix every single time. Boys, I'm going to fail, okay? And that's what I'm going to say. It's the same thing I said last year. At this point in the year, I'm going to fail. And then I bring myself up. And then I bring myself up out of the trenches, boys.
Yeah, but last year was different because you only had to rely upon yourself to not fail. This year, you have to rely upon other people.
Well, listen. I'm going to make it happen one way or another.
Yeah, he's like, I'm in Twitch's mainframe right now.
Dude, you know the Matrix? That's what my computer's about to look like after we get off here, buddy. In about October, my shit's going to look just like that, and I'm going to be hacking. The dark web, boys.
So anyway, back to V-necks. I've never been a fan. I don't want my cleavage to show, I try to keep some modesty.
Can we see
in these parts?
Can we see some of your chest?
Well, you can. But not
I've seen your chest multiple.
Yeah.
I've seen.
I've had my shirt off around you boys, I'm sure.
It is nice. There's no reason to hide it, Ben. The people want what the people want. Sex sells. Dave, yes, that's what I'm saying, dude. Next week, all V-necks for the boys.
I don't think I own a V-neck.
I'll send you this one.
If it's too tight on you, buddy.
No, man.
I have a feeling it's going to be a rough squeeze for me.
Well, it's just shoulders down. We'll be fine.
Tuesday, March 25th is V-neck night.
V-neck night.
Podcast. We're not even going to save it for after dark, so tune in.
Or that'll be the week of my birthday, boys. The magic 3-1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that Sunday? I'm breaking into my 30s.
No, you're already in your 30s, brother.
Yep.
No, no,
You're
no,
in your
no, no.
mid-30s now.
No. I'm breaking into them. See, I was in my 30s earlier. I'm breaking into them at the end of next week.
That's denial.
Denial is a river in Egypt. Okay.
Okay, now you're 55.
Did I officially reach Unk status? Am I now Unk?
Yeah.
God damn, boys.
Yeah.
God damn. I got to shave my
okay.
chest
There's
to get
nothing
this
wrong
going.
with You
No,
make
no.
a good unk.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give him Cerats.
Teach him how to gamble.
Hookers and blackjack.
This is the HP podcast. We talk about chess, terror, and video games from time to time. You can check us out on patreon.com/AnthemPhantom, where you can support us along with other people. As little as $1 a month, if you like. Helps us keep the lights on and keeps things going. You can also join us for free over in Discord at handsomephantom.com/Discord, where a bunch of other crazy people like to hang out with us as well. And if you've been hearing the interactions in chat tonight a little bit and you want to get in on the action, you can hang out with us live every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern on YouTube at Ben is Handsome or the Handsome Phantom channel. A shout out, which Brandon already spoiled, but Hulk Hogan with the $2 super chat says, Handsome Phantomania is running wild, dude. Now, Hulk is here pretty much every week, so you get an opportunity to see him, or at least to be in his presence. You don't really see him here. But thank you, Hulk Hogan. We appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's every week at 7 unless one of us falls asleep.
It's funny.
Well, it still started at 7, just to be clear.
Not for me.
5.
I finally
Not for
watched
me.
the Vince McMahon thing on Netflix. Just finished it last week. But Hulk, you did McMahon dirty by going to WCW.
That guy's a
$2
scumbag,
partially
right?
atones for it. Yeah.
That guy's a scumbag, Vince McMahon, right? He's a
I think,
scumbag.
I think anybody that's just been mentioned is a scumbag to some extent.
I
He's
think
a
we're
little
all scumbags, really.
Teenage dirtbags.
Teenage
No,
dirtbags, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think about it. Okay. Let's talk about video games. I got to pull up the freaking article here.
Did he break character there? I don't know.
No, that's in character. That's in character, brother.
It's probably
The
in character
stinky
and
Vince
out of
McMahon.
character. Let's talk about Dark Outlaw Games. PlayStation has a new first-party studio. This comes from InsiderGaming.com. Called Dark Outlaw Games. The studio is being led by former Call of Duty Zombies lead Jason Blundell. Jason Blundell, huh? The name of the studio was confirmed in an interview with Jeff Gerstmann that was published on Monday. The studio is called Dark Outlaw, Blundell said. We've been working away in the shadows for a while. When we've got something to talk about, we'll step out into the light. As far as the secrecy behind the studio's creation, Blundell says the story is about a game and not about the game and not the studio. He added that doing it under the Sony umbrella is a, quote, privilege. It's such a privilege to be able to do it with Sony as a new first-party studio. Sony doesn't start up first-party studios all the time, so to have that privilege is humbling, Blundell said, while adding that the studio is making new hirings for the development of its first game. Those new hires could be for the unannounced live service multiplayer game that began making the rounds. According to the recent job postings, the new game is still early in its development. That's even if it's the same game at all. So we've got more stuff coming forward. Now, Jason Blundell, I'm Googling this name. I know who the man is. I just want to make sure I get this right.
Lots of Call of Duty. And
Well, yeah,
Spider-Man 3. And Spider-Man 3. Yeah.
Lots of Call of Duty under himself. Deviation Games was the most recent thing where we kind of speculated for that on a while. And I think I said that, something was going on with Deviation. They were probably going to be disappearing. And then all of a sudden, Jason Blundell left. And we didn't know where he went, except, we kind of knew where he went. We knew he went somewhere with PlayStation because he was still working for them internally. And it's hard to work at a place with thousands of employees and not, somebody leak the news a little bit. But anyway, boys, I want to hear what you have to say about, one, this being Jason Blundell and what kind of game they might be working on. And then two, PlayStation creating a brand new first-party studio. They didn't go buy it. They didn't acquire it. They didn't tack this on to another studio they already had. They're just making a new one. And
Yeah.
we still haven't gotten an official confirmation from PlayStation. What do you boys think, Brandon? Since you seem to be like the power of the V-neck is flowing through you tonight.
I know, dude. It's so sexy. Uh, so my first thought is that this man's British, so I have like an inclination to not like him for that reason as an American. But as far as his video games
Wait,
go,
wait,
I mean,
what? Why don't you like him?
because he's British.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, naturally. But man, a lot of Call of Duty. You were not joking. This man has mostly worked on Call of Duty, and something that's as of note to him specifically is a lot of his work has been not on the multiplayer aspect. It's been on the single player aspect, or well, let's say the single player story aspect, because obviously Zombies has a large multiplayer.
Yeah, he worked a lot on Zombies.
But I'm seeing a lot of campaign credits for the Black Ops series, which notably of the series that are Call of Duty centric are some of the better ones. I don't know how heavy this man's hand was driven to all of this, but clearly he can put together a team and drive them to a concise and favorable story or story like experience. So yeah, I think this is cool. I think something that's interesting about a guy that does a lot of the same stuff is that hopefully now that he has a lot of experience with being kind of put in a box like this, that he can then take some of that raw talent and kind of spread his wings more or less. So clearly he has the ability to, lead a good team. And I think the fact that Sony has put so much backing behind him, you said it yourself in the article, this doesn't happen. New studios are very, very seldom just, conceived out of nothing inside of first party. I mean, it happens all the time everywhere else, but usually they bring on talent. And that's kind of how these things typically go as far as studios go. But yeah, we're seeing an industry veteran kind of head up something new for Sony. So clearly they have faith in him. Now, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, though, because we know how misguided a lot of Sony's attempts at recent things have been. I'm just hoping that this is something a little bit different. Based on his experience, I can kind of surmise that it maybe isn't multiplayer focused. Maybe not. It's hard to say. We don't really have any information yet. But based on his experience, not to say that Call of Duty wholly isn't mostly a multiplayer experience, but this gentleman's experience is mostly in a more story-driven, maybe albeit multiplayer, but not like a multiplayer competitive experience, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I feel like that's what Sony's trying to like reel in lately, is this multiplayer, free-to-play, live service type thing. So I'm hoping that they kind of let him breathe because we've seen a lot of companies, we've seen a lot of shoots try and put these people that have experience in one thing and try and get them to do something else, and it kind of flops miserably. So, yeah, I think this is cool, man, especially from Sony. Really, really cool that we're seeing some first party and new. I'm hoping this is a good sign. But Dave, did you have good thoughts about this, or what were you feeling, man?
I get the opposite of the warm and fuzzies from Mr. Blondell from UK, whatever his name is. We talked about him almost exactly 1 year ago today when it was announced that Deviation Games was closing under kind of suspicious circumstances, because there were rumors that time that Jason Blondell had stuck behind with Sony and left whatever Deviation Games were working on. And he also had a partner at the time that seemed to just kind of disappear into the ether. Well, I don't know, it just kind of stinks like an odd breakup, like somebody was cheating on someone. And here we are again. He's officially unveiled his studio, and it's fitting that it's called Dark Outlaw, because something seems a little weird about this guy. But in any case, I am wondering if he brought with him what Deviation was working on, because Deviation did confirm that they were working on something before they closed the studio. So it'll be interesting to see if we get any clues in the future about what exactly they were working on. But in any case, Sony still definitely has an interest in breaking into the live service genre. And I think this is a step in the right direction, because you're working with a guy who has, in my opinion, proven pedigree in high quality, high grossing multiplayer experiences in Zombies. And Zombies have been around for a long time, and it's a key selling point to any COD game that it's included in. So this is a step in the right direction. What Sony needs to do now is focus on their strengths and let the studio Dark Outlaw do their thing. Let them be creative. Let them focus on making something and give them enough time. Don't rush it to market, or else we're going to have another Concord situation. So, yeah, I think this is a step in the right direction. Really curious to see what they have to show us, which I'm not holding my breath on. I think it's going to be a long time, but in any case, I think this is at least kind of moving in the right direction for Sony. So, yeah.
The only thing I think that you said there, Dave, that I'll take a little bit of disagreement with is that if we rush it to market, we'll have another Concord. I don't think Concord was rushed to market. I think it was just a bad idea to begin with. I think that game cooked for too long, probably, and it just sucked. But I understood the spirit of what you were saying, for sure. I shouldn't say it sucked. It was okay. It just wasn't what the market wanted, right? So,
Are you guys that bad on this guy?
I'm not bad on him. He doesn't give me the warm fuzzies.
Did I come across as warm fuzzy? I don't know. I mean, I just see the games he's helped make, and I'm like, okay.
No, just the breakup with Deviation and the fact that he wound up with Sony is kind of fishy. But yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they were working with Sony supposedly, and like, didn't Keeley have him on stage at one point too?
it was one of those those logo press releases. Remember, Sony did that a couple times, where it was like, we've announced a partnership with this studio, and that's pretty much all it was.
And the studio just started existing at that point. Yeah.
That turned out to be a bad omen for any studio, kind of a bad luck charm, because I think at least 2 of those studios have gone under without releasing anything.
Jade Raymond Studio's gone now too, I think. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I hope for the best. I want good games, and I especially want awesome first-party games from all the first parties, for that matter. So the better the first-party games, the harder the third parties have to work, in my opinion. So bring it on. Next up, this is also from Insider Gaming. I don't know why. I just was on their website and found a couple things at once this week. It says Xbox has paid $5 billion to indie developers via the ID at Xbox program. In the 11 years since the ID at Xbox program was announced, the indie game self-publishing program has generated more than $5 billion in payments to indie developers, according to Microsoft. The program shows no signs of slowing down, with over 1,000 games released just in the past year. The amount of money generated through the ID at Xbox program and given to indie developers has greatly increased in recent years. In 2020, the program director Chris Carla, I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, said ID paid developers close to $2 billion since 2014 and had paid out more than $1.5 billion just in royalties since the program's start. By 2022, Xbox reported that total royalties paid out had increased to $2.5 billion. Since the program's inception, some of the most popular and successful indie game titles have made their way to Xbox Game Pass. Just in the past year, Microsoft claims that over 1,000 games were added to Game Pass through ID at Xbox, including Balatro, just recently. The ID at Xbox showcase from this February highlighted over 21 titles slated to come to Game Pass as well, including Revenge of the Savage Planet and Lies of P Overture. 33 Immortals, a 33-player co-op raid from Thunder Lotus Games that was shown off at the Xbox showcase, is out as of when this article was written, which was today. Etc., etc. So, boys, Xbox, we've heard the rumors, and maybe even sometimes facts, that the Game Pass money has slowed down, and that, that program is not just handing out money as readily as they were at one point. But the program they've got set up with ID at Xbox, which essentially just means developers can easily self-publish their game now, as opposed to the way it used to be where you had to have a publisher, seems to be at least keeping steam, if not gaining steam. What do you guys make of this? Is this a good thing long term? Are we too crowded? What do you think, Dave?
ID at Xbox is it's interesting because when you look at Microsoft's history with indies, I don't know if it's fair to call them pioneers, but I think back to Xbox Live Arcade, and I don't know if the intention of that sub-platform was exclusively for indies, but it was definitely for smaller, cheaper, more digestible games. I think about things like Geometry Wars as an example, was kind of the poster child for that service for a long time. And I don't know if it's even fair to say that ID at Xbox is a genesis of that, but I certainly think that Microsoft has a really good track record of programs that are aimed at supporting indies. And I think it's great to see that they've kind of paid out so much over the years, but I am a little bit cautious about saying, "Oh, how great Microsoft is," because um, I do know that with programs like this, it's sort of publisher adjacent, where I don't know if it's sold in a way to indies that like you're not getting published, but you're getting the benefits of being published. But at the same time, there's still a revenue sharing that is favorable for Microsoft, and you're kind of like selling your soul to the devil potentially because you're giving up revenue potential as an indie developer in exchange for promised marketing exposure. But the amount of exposure that an individual game is getting is, I don't know how much it really moves the needle. And then building on that, I kind of feel like a lot of these digital storefronts, and I'll think about Microsoft's right now, they're sort of built in a way to um, to promote indies to look at ID at Xbox and Game Pass rather than just publishing on their own, because these games get buried so quickly unless you're in these programs. So I I don't know. It's if you speak to any indie developer, they'll say self-publish if you can. And ID at Xbox, I get that it's not a pure publishing thing, but it's kind of close to it. So self-publish if you can, and just market your ass off, because if you can do it yourself and take 100% of the revenue minus whatever storefront fees there are, that's the best case scenario for you. But it just when indie developers are so focused on addressing product risk, which is making a really good game, they sort of forget you can put a good game out there, but if nobody sees it on the storefront and nobody knows about it on socials, then it's going to disappear pretty quick, and all of those years of work are going to go out the window. So I'm very glad that Microsoft is giving indies a platform, but I'm also a little bit cautious about positioning it as this I don't know, philanthropic thing in our industry. It's one of the better ones. Like we had Sony loves indies for many years, and then I don't know what Nintendo does, but yeah, I do think it is one of the better ones, but still I'm a little kind of cautious about that sort of thing.
With Sony Loves Indies, I don't know if that was really a program. I mean, I know they were funding some indies, which at that point, are they still indie? I don't know. That's all depending on your definition of indie. But I know they were funding some indies, but I think the specific Sony Loves Indies thing was more of a marketing push than it was an actual program. And realistically, ID at Xbox is a marketing push as well, because there, for the vast majority of games that are ID at Xbox, there are no funding opportunities there. So I'll say two things. One, you can take this with a grain of salt because I have a conflict of interest because I work for an Indie.io. This is the company I work for. Just recently started with them, and they publish indie games. Kind of. They don't fund them always. They just offer us like a bunch of resources, and they do take a percentage to for that with specifically on Steam, but also other platforms. But before that, even before I started working with them, I think there's a fine line, Dave, what I think about between the self-publishing and the publishing, where it's like, I think if you are fully equipped to go out and 100% do everything on your own, then yeah, indie publishing is the way to go. But there are some people who are just never going to be able to make a good trailer. They're never going to be able to afford to quality test their games and stuff like that. And I think in certain situations like that, as long as the terms are right for you as a developer, excuse me, I think publishers can be good. But I agree there are a lot of really I shouldn't say selfish. It's not selfish, it's business. But there are a lot of bad publishers, people who just want to take lots of money from you and your IP. So I think there's a really fine line. And by and large, I would say if you can do just as well on your own as you could with a publisher of any kind, then of course you'd be silly to let them take part of your money. But I don't think all publishers are bad. I think a lot of publishers are bad, but I don't think all publishers are bad. But again, grain of salt. Brandon, your thoughts? You're muted, buddy.
I tend to agree with both of you. You both have way more experience with indie games than I do. generally. I'm not much of an indie guy myself. I dabble, but I think that is a pretty large number. I want to feel good about what Xbox doing. Um, I feel like it is difficult for people to publish by themselves regardless, and obviously owning all of your product is the most ideal route all the time, but I would worry that sometimes the more you put into a market, the more crowded it becomes. And so then when you have the hope of your game getting more exposure, I mean, you have $5 billion worth of games trying to fight for that exposure as well. So I think that the bigger it gets, the less effective it gets in some ways. So even though this is good, and I agree with both of you, um, I don't know, man. I just agree with, if you can go independent, go independent. Do it by yourself. But I guess this is a good option for people that don't have any other options. So I think that these big companies really don't care that much about indies. They care more about the percentage they're getting from the indies to be published. So I don't necessarily think, you know, it's like a philanthropy thing. I just think it's more of a mutual benefit sort of thing. So
I agree with you there, Brandon, as well. I think that the thing that's scary about this to me, when they say this article from Insider Gaming, and I don't have any numbers to disprove this or support it for that matter, but if we take it at face value, it says Microsoft claims that over 1,000 games were added to Game Pass through ID at Xbox. I don't know if 1,000 games have been added. I mean, maybe that's true through ID at Xbox, but let's say that Microsoft is saying 1,000 games have just been through ID at Xbox and been published through ID at Xbox. That's a lot of games. I know the gaming market is continually increasing in size, and like the dollar spend is getting higher, and of course PC gaming is gaining revenue, and like that market continues to grow. But 1,000 games is a lot of freaking games. And what is the breaking point? I don't think we've seen it yet, but there's going to come a point where the market can't sustain more games, and that's going to hurt for a lot of people who have been working on their games for years. So it's good. I think ID of Xbox is really good. But I shouldn't say worry because I don't know if I sit around worrying about it, but I constantly think about the state of like how many games there are. And even when you feel like there's nothing to play, there's still like a billion games coming out a month. So yeah, it's a rough environment for people who don't have guidance, I think. And that's a lot of developers. Most developers, even developers with publishers, don't have guidance a lot of times. So
yeah,
it's a tough market for sure. Which makes success stories like Palatro all the more crazy, right? That it's like, wow, this game came out of nowhere from one guy and it made it. Well, that inspires a bunch of people to make games, but I'm sorry, Balatro was a story because it was crazy, not because
right.
It's the norm, right? So
it's like winning the lottery. I mean, truly, it's, everybody keeps playing the tickets and spends money every day, but it's something that happens to very few. So
yeah. Let's move on to the next story. This is from videogamer.com, and it says Saber Interactive's recent announcement of Warhammer 40K Space Marine 3 has caused some unrest. Let me start over. Saber Interactive's recent announcement of Warhammer 40K Space Marine 3 has caused some unrest for fans of the developer. Despite the announcement of another game, Saber Interactive COO Tim Willits explained that previously announced games like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic are still in active development. With a large number of games announced by the studio in recent years, including a new title based on Avatar: The Last Airbender, Jurassic Park, Turek, and more, Saber hasn't dropped any announced game at the time of writing. Knights of the Old Republic and more are still in development. This is a quote, Saber Interactive is one of the largest independent developers in the world, the COO explained. We're working on numerous games across many different genres. Everything that we have talked about is still in development. We will share information on upcoming games when we have something cool to share. I guess this is twofold. This is one about Saber Interactive as a developer slash publisher slash whatever, and two, KOTOR, because we thought this. A lot of people thought this was dead, including me. I thought that it had gone away. But I want to hear what you guys think, Brandon.
yeah, I mean, I've said it ever since we started talking about the KOTOR remake. I think this game is in development hell and then some. Like, it's in many layers of hell. I feel bad because even though I have very, very, very little experience, I'm talking like maybe one long session of playing this game. I know it's a game that people really, really like in a series. Well, in a game that people really, really care about. So the fact that it's kind of been stuck, I'm not thinking good things. I'm not thinking good things about this. And for a point, we thought it was just dead, straight up dead. I remember talking about that. So, I mean, it's still not looking any better as far as I'm concerned, even if they're saying it's still being worked on. Games that have this sort of cycle rarely, rarely, rarely come out on top. Like, it is a fucking outlier. If we're talking about lottery tickets, this is like winning the lottery twice, as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I want it to be good because, albeit I would be interested in this sort of experience after all I've heard about it, but I don't have much faith in Saber at this point to kind of follow through with all of the stink, let's say all the stink around this game. It's kind of just fuming at this point. It looks like goddamn pig pen with the flies and stuff. So,
Dave, what do you think about
look at
Charlie
Dave's
Brown?
face. What did I say, Dave? What is it? Is it? Do you need me to pull this down further? Is this distracting you, my V-neck? You just gave me the biggest stink face. Do you disagree?
No, not
Okay.
at all. I don't know. So I get that a lot. That like they're like, "Well, are you mad? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "This is my normal face."
Yeah.
The funny thing is
too.
now I'm looking at my daughter and I'm seeing her do it. I'm like, "Oh my god, is that what people were talking about?"
What have you done? What have you done?
But no. I understand why people are nervous about this remake because it's KOTOR and it's such a beloved game and it's a remake to such a beloved game. But let's just remind ourselves that this remake started with Aspire, who kind of bungled one of the other repackages of this series, and then it was taken over by Saber, and then Saber left Embracer. So it's changed hands once, and whenever a company leaves sort of a parent company, there's always that question of what did they take with them. And I did go back a little bit, and it was again almost exactly a year ago. Last April, there was an IGN interview with the Saber Interactive CEO Matthew Karch, who confirmed that the company took KOTOR with it during its split from Embracer Group, and that the game is still in active development. And it's kind of funny because he has a quote, and it kind of sounds like he's getting annoyed with all the questions. So it's funny that it's kind of come up again a year later. So he says, "It's clear and it's obvious that we're working on this," he said. "It's been in the press numerous times. What I will say is that the game is alive and well, and we're dedicated to make sure we exceed consumer expectations." So this is 1 year ago from a different guy who's at an equal C level at the company. So it's just kind of funny because it's like we're just getting this annual, yes, it's still going on. So I think what Saber needs to do, give us a trailer. It doesn't need to have any gameplay. It doesn't need to have a release date. It doesn't need to have a release window. Just give us some proof of life and we'll be happy, and we'll leave you alone until next April. That's all we need. It's not a big deal, right? But I certainly understand the apprehension and why people are nervous about this, because it's moved around a lot, and that usually isn't a good sign. I trust the CEOs and the CFOs and the COOs at Saber that they're not lying to us, but show us something. It's not hard. It's not hard at all.
Pop a tit. It gets him every time.
Sure enough.
I'm sorry, Ben.
That's fine. It took me off guard.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. I don't even.
Oh,
According to Twisted Voxel, an Xbox user who claims to have lost their $40,000 worth of the Xbox digital library after receiving a permanent ban. Sorry. An Xbox user claims to have lost their $40,000 worth of Xbox digital library after receiving a permanent ban for playing in a modded online lobby. The individual, who goes by the handle discount -1243, mentioned that their Xbox account received a permanent ban for something completely outside their control. They've been playing on Xbox since 2007 and have spent over $40,000 on more than 600 games. But Microsoft took all that away from them, taking away access to their Xbox account. According to the Xbox user that was banned, they were having a multiplayer session of Call of Duty Black Ops when another player used a mod menu to unlock achievements for everyone in the lobby. They claim not to have done anything wrong, but still ended up getting a message informing them that they have been banned for breaking community guidelines. They also claim that their Xbox account has been in perfect standing prior to this incident, and that they have never cheated in their life. Yet, as per this user, Microsoft decided to punish them for something they didn't do. The banned Xbox user further mentioned that their appeal against the ban got denied within minutes without receiving a chance to explain their situation. The reason for the ban states, no details given. They reached out on X, and the support representative informed them that only the enforcement team can handle this case and that there is no direct way to contact them or escalate the matter further. Okay, boys, a couple things to talk about here. One, who the hell has a $40,000 Xbox digital library?
Xbots.
I don't know how that. I mean, I know how it's possible. You've had your Xbox account presumably since the 360. That's 15 years. No, that's like a little over 15 years.
Dude.
Okay, I get it, but like that's a lot of money.
That's like pre-Game Pass money, dude. This is what Game Pass is taking
way past
from
Game
us.
Pass. Yeah. This is
It's
what
not,
Game Pass
they said 600 games, so that works out to about $65 a game. So it's weird that you'd be buying all your games at full price, but the funny thing is you have that many games and you're playing COD.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Average gamer, average Xbox player, like $40,000 library only plays Call of Duty and Madden.
I mean, in fairness, let's say you get into something with a lot of microtransactions, then you play an Overwatch for years, buying battle pass and skins and loot boxes. Like, okay, you want to include that in there? That's fine. I'm sure it is $40,000 or more. That's just a lot of money, is all I'm saying. Maybe this guy has other problems besides getting it taken away from him. But with that said, Dave, what do you think about this idea? And I mean, I'm not really trying to get into a physical versus digital thing here, because you can still have your account taken away with your physical achievements on it, like from physical games. So that's probably not here or there. But it's kind of just crazy that you just spent 40 grand over the last however many years, and now you got nothing to show for it.
Yeah,
it's like buying a car.
Regardless of the amount, it's scary, because for so many games and so many things you do, you need that online connection and you need to have a valid account. And as someone with a primarily digital video game library right now, and on the console that I play mostly, which is my PS5, my library is entirely digital. So if my account got banned, this would be bricked, and that would be a big problem for me. And building on the fact that, now I do want to kind of add a massive grain of salt to this, because there's a lot about this story that I think needs to be validated and vetted. But if it is accurate, it's very scary. I do think that this user will get their account reinstated, but if Xbox is banning people so quickly and they don't have a proper appeals process in place that allows people to provide proof and detail, and this person appears to have some proof, that's a little bit scary. So somebody in our chat is saying the guy got unbanned already, so I figured that would be the case. But in any case, it's like if something like that happens in a lobby when you're playing with other people, you have no control over that. And if everybody's getting flagged for that sort of thing, and Xbox doesn't have the ability to track who exactly was running the mod, then where does that end? There are lobbies with hundreds of people in it. So, hopefully they were just playing in a 6v6, but what if it was a Warzone lobby, So it's kind of a scary precedent, and it's just another reminder of what we're actually dealing with and what the word ownership means in the digital age. So be careful out there, people. Find ways to back up stuff, play physical when you can, but just keep in mind that you don't necessarily own this stuff, and it could get taken away pretty quickly. So yeah. And sorry, one other thing I wanted to add is I wonder if, because this was a Call of Duty infringement, I wonder if Xbox came down harder on it because of the Activision relationship, or if maybe they were just monitoring it more closely. But I did kind of think about, I wonder if this was something else, not Activision or not Microsoft owned, would it have been handled different? But in any case, it's very scary.
Brandon, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, discount negative 1243 just doesn't sound like a real person to me. But yeah, this is obviously a sad thing. I think it's a really slippery slope banning people for things that they didn't do, as Dave was kind of saying. I've more recently seen some absolutely batshit crazy videos of Warzone 1 hacking in the past couple weeks. And I'm thinking of that, exactly what Dave said. Like, you took the words out of my mouth. It's like, when you get a lobby that size, I mean, when does it stop? Like, where's the responsibility lie when you're just a passerby in something somebody else is doing? So, yeah, it really does put things in perspective, I guess. But Dave said it pretty eloquently.
Last story is really just one to satisfy me. And that's it. We haven't really talked about like new additions to Game Pass or PlayStation Plus in a long time, because honestly, I just kind of got bored of it. But we could do that again if you guys want. But I wanted to mention that the Blizzard Arcade Collection has now come to Game Pass on the standard level, so it's not the core, but it's not ultimate either. And the Blizzard Arcade Collection contains a lot of good stuff, but one specifically, the Lost Vikings. The Lost Vikings is one of the first games I really remember playing as a kid. And it's like you got three Vikings and they're going around and you can only control one of them at a time and you got to use each of them in different ways to like navigate through these levels. It's a lot of fun. And this is just a PSA now that I mean, it's been on consoles for years for like $20, I think. But now that it's on Game Pass, get on Game Pass if you have it. Go get the Blizzard Arcade Collection and play the Lost Vikings and live my childhood for me. I played through this again a couple years ago and I had a lot of fun, but it's just a PSA. It's there now. And it's a Blizzard game, so it's unlikely that it's going to go away anytime soon from Game Pass since, they own it. So go check it out. One of the greats. Have either of you guys played the Lost Vikings?
No, I had to look it up. It looks pretty cool though. That's very SNES. Was it on Genesis?
It was on SNES, actually.
Not Genesis.
It might have also been on Genesis. It was definitely on PC and SNES, though.
Right. It reminded me of, for obvious reasons, Asterix and Obelisk. I played the shit out of that game on Genesis. I was a Genesis boy.
Let's
a Gen
see.
bot, I guess. I don't know. What would they call me? A transgen? No, I'm just...
A Jenny?
Lost Vikings, according to Wikipedia, was on Super Nintendo, Genesis, Amiga, MS-DOS, which is where I played it.
Of course.
Amiga CD32, Game Boy Advance. I didn't realize that one. And then it's on the Switch, apparently, as well as PS4 and Xbox One. Like I said, it's been on consoles for 20 years. Or, I'm sorry, for $20 for a while. But there's other good games in that collection, but the Lost Vikings is the one that I'm encouraging people to go play. It's more accessible now than it has been in a long time, just by the fact that it's in a subscription service. So just wanted to shout it out. Boys, let's talk about what we've been playing. Brandon, who doesn't play any indie games, really has multiple indie games on his list here. Why don't you start us off, Brandon?
Yeah. I beat Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't know if I said that last week, but I did. I am someone else has got to get on my level of unemployment or something, because I'm hunter rake like 80 at this point. I'm over 80, so I'm like doubling all my friends. I'm not talking smack, but what I'm saying is I'm losing a little bit of steam, I guess is what I'm saying, with like playing by myself. This isn't shaming either, I promise. This isn't guilting. What I'm saying is that I'm cooling it a little bit. I'll still obviously play with the boys and stuff, but I am slowing down a little bit. It's been a ton of fun though. Fucking love this game. I've done a lot of grinding on some very difficult, probably the most difficult monster in the game. So I think that kind of slowed my pace to a crawl. So it's been good though. Love the hell out of this game. I'm excited for next month whenever new content drops. So there will be a new gathering hub. We did an amazing spoiler cast on Sacred Symbols Plus that came out for patrons, I believe. If anyone's an LSM listener, check that out. It was a lot of fun. It was me, Brad, Ben, and Dustin just hanging out with the boys, minus Dave. But it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed the podcast and I enjoyed the game. But
by the way,
in addition-
Brandon, if you were trying to shame us, I think you've known Dave and I long enough to know we can't really be shamed into playing things, right?
That's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make it clear that I'm not that guy, pal, to the audience as well.
Understood.
I would blatantly shame you. Like I would say, Ben, I'm shaming you. It wouldn't matter if it was effective, but I would say it to his face.
Yeah,
like
of course.
I am attempting to shame you.
You are being shamed currently. Yeah, I get it.
Shame.
Yeah.
Spitting and hissing. But in addition to that, I picked up a little game that was on my Steam library called Blasphemous. I guess I didn't pick it up. I guess I just downloaded it. But yeah, man, I have had like a little love interest with this game for a long time now. Not my style of game. I'm not really into the whole Metroidvania type thing, but I am into the roguelite stuff. So love the art style. That's really what drew me to this game, was the impeccable aesthetic of it. Really resonates with me. Like medieval Gothic is just it's beautiful. But it's very, very, very hard, and I'm still really learning it as someone who is newer to the genre of the Metroidvania type games. So that's been a learning curve, but I'm hoping to stick with it. I wanted something that I could kind of pop in and out of. And aside from me needing to reach a checkpoint, I feel like I am kind of like learning the game better every time, even if I don't reach a checkpoint. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And this game is like creepy and dingy, and you get to be a cone man. So that's a lot of fun. But
Brandon, for the uninitiated, I know you said it was a roguelite, but I don't know what Blasphemous is. I've seen its name everywhere for years. I don't know what it is. What kind of game is it? Like what is it?
Yeah, so it's like Metroidvania Dark Souls. So you essentially go through bosses left to right, up and down. And then you collect stuff, and you fight bosses at the end. And you don't roll, you kind of like slide around, but there's different power-ups and stuff you can go as you can collect as you go. But the difficulty really genuinely does remind me a lot of like the Souls type feels of it, really. And maybe the aesthetic as well, with some slight deviation from the standard like fantasy world, but maybe more like a Bloodborne feel. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
It's fun. I've flirted with the genre a lot. I've liked a lot of the games that I've seen come out, and I feel like they're like a dime a dozen now. Like 10 years ago when between 5 and 10 years ago when we were like going to shows and stuff, they were starting to pop off real big, and now they're at every single showcase there's a game like this. But this was one of the standout pieces for me in the past decade or however long it's been. So yeah, and there's a second game too, which I downloaded. They're both very small, so there's no reason to not keep them on my Steam and just try them out. So, last and certainly not least, another indie darling is Midnight Murder Club.
It's kind of an indie darling. I realized after I said that it's technically published by PlayStation.
The indie darling, Sony, but just a figure of speech, words don't mean anything. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. This is a game. It's a party game. That's kind of how I'm going to brand it. And it's essentially a game where you go into a pitch black mansion. And when your flashlight isn't on, you can see absolutely nothing. And you have a revolver. You got 6 shots. The general rule, and there's a bunch of game modes, but the general game mode, let's just say, is free for all. And you go in there with you and 6 or 7 of your buddies. And you're essentially just like waiting and walking through this mansion and running into walls, and then you see a light from across the room like peek through some blinds, and your buddy's over there. And so you turn off your light and you creep towards him and you try and shoot him with your gun. It's a lot of fun. I would encourage anybody to check this out. I believe it's in early access right now, and if one of your friends buys the game, you all have the game. I'm going to repeat that. If one of your friend buys the game, you all have the game, and it's cross-play.
If one of your friends buys the game, you can play the game. You don't own it.
Do we own anything?
No, I'm saying like, if you don't share a library with them, you couldn't boot it up and play it without them.
With the guest.
You could play it with them if they were playing.
Exactly. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Because it's so party centric, What I'm trying to express and what Ben is saying is that if you're trying to play with your friends, if you all pitch in the money and you want to play it together, technically only one of you has to buy it. Okay.
And it's $20.
And if you want to play by yourself, you would then have to buy the game. But if you're just trying to play with your friend group, which I would highly encourage, that's like most of the fun with these party type games. I'd highly recommend. It's really cool. It's getting like weirdly low numbers on everything right now. I don't know if, we were talking about how like it didn't seem like it was being advertised very much. It is still in early access. But I'd check it out. It actually plays really well, and they have a bunch of game modes that are coming out. I'm kind of hoping this isn't like a dead in the water type of thing. With the numbers I'm seeing it being pulled on Steam, it kind of is worrying me a little bit. It is Sony first party, so I'm hoping they're going to get some of their advertising bucks behind it here in the next year or so. So I'm hoping it's not a like dead within the year game, but I like it a lot. And Ben, it seemed like we were all having a good time. I genuinely wanted to hear what you thought of it too.
So I wanted to talk about it. You said a lot of stuff about it that's true. It's fun. It's fun. I don't know if it has a lot of legs to it. To be fair, like it seems like this is a game that's like maybe kind of dead in the water already, based on these numbers. The first is, let me find the info here.
It's also $20, so I'm going to play devil's advocate. How much legs does it have to have?
Agreed, yeah. But it has to have more than this. The all-time peak for this game, of just the base game, not the guest pass edition, whatever, is 178. And that was 5 days ago. As of the 24-hour peak, it's 64. Now, as Brandon mentioned, if you have the game, up to 5 of your friends can play with you if you're playing, just by giving them a room code. The peak for that is 268. So at its highest on Steam, which is really where this game probably should thrive as compared to PlayStation, just because it's a shooter. I don't know. I think it should. I'm not saying it couldn't do well on PlayStation, but it should thrive here, especially early access. Is about 200 people at the peak. Now, of course, that doesn't mean only 200 people have played it, but that's the concurrence. That's really concerning for a game published, even if it's early access, by PlayStation, for it to be that low. With that said, it has a lot of different modes and a lot of fun you can have with it. There's different styles you can play on a team. You can play free for all. You can play different objective based maps. There's one where you like collect money and go out of safes and go turn it in and stuff like that. So like it's got some different variety to it and everything. But the goal is still, I mean, the real kicker of the game is that you're in a mansion, everything is pitch black, and you have to shoot each other. That's the real point of the game. It creates a lot of fun moments where it's like you don't know who people are. You don't even know who your team. If you just see somebody like with a flashlight across the room from you, and they have a flashlight, you don't have yours on, and you shoot them because you think it was a bad guy or like somebody on the other team, it could be anybody, and you can only tell who people are if you turn your flashlight on and expose who you are to them as well. So like if Brandon's standing right next to me and I know he's right next to me and I shine my light on him, I'll know it's Brandon because his name's above his head. But if I don't, and I don't remember what he looks like because, you have different randomized characters, and I shoot him, then I've knocked my teammate down. So like that's a fun dynamic to it.
I love
it's also a fun, yeah, I've done it. It's also a fun dynamic just to see a light across the room and shoot at it without them even knowing you were there. And then it's like, oh, son of a bitch, you killed me, whatever. So there's a lot of fun to be had, and it is a lot of fun for sure with your friends. I don't know if I would like to play this game with randoms completely. Maybe a couple randoms in a lobby of my friends, but it's definitely a game that needs, in my opinion, you need to know the people you're playing with for it to be the most fun. And the reality is, when you're playing online, most people don't use microphones, or if they do, it's their PlayStation 5 DualSense controller microphone that they don't even know is on, and it's just, you hear the kids in the background and the guy playing the game eating chips and the fans on and the dog's barking, and that's annoying. But most of the time, that's the positive you can get. Most people don't talk in multiplayer games for some reason. So I think there's some big problems with it as far as like the actual player base goes, and I'm hoping that gets sorted once it's out of early access. But this is the kind of game that should have popped off after a beta. If it was going to make it, and it didn't for whatever reason, and that's a little bit concerning. There's also cool little things in the game, like you You can pick up a Tommy gun and blow people away with that. You've got grenades, you've got light bombs, you've got traps, all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, there's a lot of variety and it has a lot of fun. I just don't know how big the audience is. There's a lot of potential, but I don't know if it has a lot of momentum, I guess is the way to say it. Brandon, was there anything else you had? Cool. Your mic's muted, so I'm just going to assume there's not.
Yeah, that was it for me. Sorry, I was. My beard's getting so long. I just keep like sitting here and playing with it. I don't want it showing up on the mic.
I've done that. Yeah, I do that all the time.
Oh, ASMR. Come on, man.
No, dude. RIP headphone users. No.
Edward in chat asked, "Is it early access?" I think we talked about it, but yes, I don't know when you asked that. I'm sorry. It is early access, and it's early access. I think it's on PlayStation right now too.
I think it's. And I said this, but I'm like 90% sure it's like crossplay and everything, right?
I don't know if it's crossplay or not. I don't know.
I think it is. I'll look that up, but because I'm just curious. But
Dave, what about you? What have you been playing?
I have mostly been playing Monster Hunter Wilds. I am pretty close to the end of the second ending when the real game starts. And I'm having a great time. But I am getting annoyed that I kept reaching points where the story stops and it says you have to level up more. And they don't give you any direction. It's just, and I understand why they do that, because you could breeze through the story with one overpowered kind of squad mate. But I feel like other games have kind of addressed that with like team balancing. It's just kind of weird that you just randomly hit a point where they're like, you can't progress any further, go do stuff. And I think, I don't know that Monster Hunter has ever been great at other stuff for you to do. It's all fun and engaging, but it's just so like, I don't know. Anyways, so I'm still having a great time with it. I played a little bit the other night with Brandon, helped me quite a bit. I played a little bit more with Edward, which was cool because we got on voice, and it was fun to play and talk with someone that we've talked to in chat for so many years. I got to wish his grandma a happy birthday.
Nice.
So that was fun, and carries are always welcome because apparently everybody's a higher level than I am now. So yeah, I'm hoping to finish that up in the next couple days. And
the monsters adjust to your level though, right?
Yeah,
or your party size, I guess.
I think it's your party size. I think whatever you come in with is like obviously an advantage, but it's not like you're gonna one shot it or anything.
Right.
Like,
so if you add people to your party, I think their health pool just climbs, but it doesn't. I don't know if it adjusts properly for if you have like a level 70 person when you're a level 30, which is fine. Like if I want someone to help me grind, then I want to get those fights done as quickly as possible, but it's just weird that like the story literally stops and says go do other stuff, and then we'll let you know when we're ready to give you the next story, but you'd never know when that is. So I've gotten to the second last I finished the second last fight, which Brandon has told me is the hardest fight in the game. But because I didn't power level before that fight was really hard, but now I'm only level 35 and I'm pretty sure the story finishes at level 40, but the game doesn't tell me that. It just says go away and we'll let you know when we're ready with it. So it's just kind of weird like that, but I'm still having a great time. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I guess the only inverse to that, and I completely agree with you, I think it should have been done a little bit better, is I think the game maybe assumes you're going to do more in between stories, because that was kind of my experience. I didn't realize until the very end when I was, pretty much at the level. I think it happened to me once the entire story where it was like, go do something, because I was doing so much in between that I didn't realize I was reaching level cap.
But this is the dumb thing though, because so I was off doing stuff, but the problem was I was doing a lot of that stuff while a story mission was waiting for me. So my level was frozen because I had already gotten to the appropriate level to kind of progress. Whereas I should have been doing that stuff after I got to that point where the story paused. So I don't know. It's just so much about Monster Hunter is antiquated, and that's just part of the game. So nothing I'm really upset about, just pointing out that it's kind of weird.
Lazy dev.
Yeah, lazy dev. But we love you, Capcom. You're the best. I also have been playing the Skate playtest, and I'm going to talk about this. It's a playtest, and I've been seeing people write stuff about it on the internet. So I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to talk about it. I'm just pretty sure I'm not allowed to share any images or videos or whatever. But if somebody from EA is listening and I get blacklisted because of this, then I am flattered, because I didn't know anybody from EA listens to our show.
Oh yeah, of
So,
course.
yeah, so it's a play test. The game is launching later this year, but the version of the game that is live is very rough still. There's still a lot to be added to the game. There's pop in everywhere. Textures aren't finished. And yeah, obviously mission structure and stuff. You're just playing like a vertical slice. So with that said, I have very high hopes for this game now, because I jumped into the game, got through the tutorial, and it just kind of puts you in I think it's called San Van, which I believe was a location from like Skate 3 DLC. And it's just a wide open map, and it plays very much like a skateboard version of Forza Horizon, where you're in this big open world and everybody's driving around just doing their own thing, and you can jump in and do something with other people, or you can just kind of skate around. And the way the skate formula worked 10 years ago, it still feels just as good now, where you're just kind of skating around. Maybe you just finished a mission and you see like a staircase with like a something to grind on and a really long run up. You're like, I bet I can do a sick trick there. So you spend like 20 minutes just trying to make an awesome line, and it has nothing to do with any mission, but you just sink so much time into the game doing that. That's what they brought back, and I think they've done it in a really, really cool way. Skate was always an open world game, but I think having other players in the world with you just adds so much to the experience. And one thing that I'm really happy to see is it looks like they have addressed collision, in which there is none. So the opportunity for griefing is almost non-existent. So when you skate around people, like, you just kind of float right through them. So you want to have people who are going to interrupt your combos or anything like that, your lines. But yeah, I was kind of like, I was aware this game was coming and I love Skate, but I saw this and I'm like, they're going to try to make it like social, overly co-op, that kind of stuff. But I'm all in on this game, and I fully understand that it is a game that's going to be built around a cosmetic microtransaction thing, but I'm pretty sure you don't have to spend $1 on that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I got into this game and it instantly started to click with me, and I felt like I was back playing on my PS3 like 10 years ago. And the funny thing is I've been playing my 360 quite a bit, and I've been looking out for a copy of Skate 2, which I haven't found yet. And now that I'm playing this, I'm just like, I'm so looking forward to Skate coming out later this year. It's awesome. So yeah, very much looking forward to Skate. The one thing that I don't like, and I don't want to comment too much on this yet, because again, the visuals aren't final, but it was pretty clear from that first trailer they showed off last year that the visual direction has diverged somewhat from, the players look a little bit more cartoony, which I'm not crazy about. It's not quite Fortnite, but it's kind of approaching that. So not crazy about that, but again, you spend the most of your time looking at, your skateboard in the back of your skater and the world around you. So yeah, I was so excited. I went shoe shopping with my wife on the weekend, and I bought a pair of Element shoes.
Yes,
really cheap,
let's go, dude. Let's go for the OGs.
Yeah. So
did you have Fat Farms, Dave? I always wanted a pair of Fat Farms, dude.
no, I'd have paired it like Daewong Song DVS's. Ooh. And yeah, but yeah, I had friends who had like the etnies, were like the big chunky
dude,
like laces and stuff. But
I love the etnies, bro. I love them.
Yeah, but I'm very excited for Skate, big time. So yeah,
nice. If only they hadn't screwed up their invite a friend to the playtest thing, then I'd be playing too. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we talked about Midnight Murder Club, which I was going to talk about. We talked about Monster Hunter. I don't really have anything to add, except I've still put a few more hours in since last week. The only other thing I've been playing, and this is just kind of like in my library because it's been $2 a million different times, is Brotato. And I don't know why I decided to download this, but I was just like I was on my Steam Deck watching TV with the family this weekend. I was like, I'm gonna play what's like on the top 10 list or whatever. And Brotato is one of those games that's been on the top 10 like Steam Deck lists since the Steam Deck came out, or since the game came out. For those who don't know, Brotato is like a survivor type game, I guess you could say, where you're I want to say you look like an egg, but I think you're supposed to be a potato. Kind of makes sense. Either way, you're a roundish object, and there's a lot of different characters to choose from at the beginning. Or there's only a few characters to choose from at the beginning. You unlock more and more as you go, and then that character has a different set of attributes compared to every other character. And you go in with stats and equip weapons, kill bad guys, collect loot, end the round, survive through the round, add up all the money you've received, the items, whatever, and build out your character and keep going. Depending on the rotato you pick, you can either have like 6 or 12 weapons. Sometimes you can have less than that. There's lots of different modifiers that affect, all sorts of different stats there's a lot of different stats. And then each different type of weapon that you can equip relies like on that stat. So let's say you have melee damage and you keep upping your melee damage, then weapons that do melee will increase by X amount of times how much damage they do. And I think so far, I don't know how many hours I've played it. It's one of those games where I'm just like, oh, I'm going to bed in 25 minutes. I'm just going to play Brotato for 25 minutes and probably longer than that because I get addicted. But I've completed like the base difficulty with one character so far. Other than that, I've gotten to like, far into the run and then eventually died. But it's very similar to a lot of the other Survivor games, except for I think it has a little bit deeper systems. Deep Rock Galactic Survivor is a little bit different because you're leveling up different weapons within each level and you are trying to accomplish certain tasks and you're trying to collect different minerals and all that kind of stuff. And then you have Vampire Survivors where you're still leveling up your weapons and everything, but it's one continuous run and you're just trying to survive. Whereas this game, it's like you're trying to survive, but there's lots of different breaks in the level and your strategy changes based on the stats of the weapon versus the stats that your character has. And then you unlock new things. So it's all very similar in that same genre, but it's a different twist on it. All these Survivor games have a little bit different twist on them that make them fun. So this is the perfect pick up and play a game. You can, if you finish a whole run, it's probably going to take you, I don't know, maybe like half an hour the whole way through because all the levels are timed. There's also endless runs, and I think there's some DLC I haven't cracked into yet, but the game's very cheap. It's always on sale for like a couple bucks. And it's well worth a couple bucks and probably more than that. So check it out if you've been thinking about it. It's not new by any means, but it's one of those games that just kind of has always been there looking at me for years now. And I finally decided to give it a go, and I'm glad I did. And I think that's all we got for the HP podcast, episode number 320. Anything more, boys? Did I miss anything? Cool. Don't forget to support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And of course, join our Discord where you can hang out with us, the beautiful boys. We appreciate you all, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.